Brothers and sisters, welcome back to day 3. Today we're going to speak about counterfeit remedies. So we've been speaking about the last day. We spoke about Dan and his experience of the anguish and the torment of childhood, his adolescence, part of his life that caused a lot of his own chaos. And these things deeply mark one's psyche and psychology. And, and he even says, even if someone was brought up in a loving Christian home, they're not affected by anxiety and even suffering. And everybody's suffering, I would say, is unique to them. And so we should be very careful about, belittling somebody else's suffering because we feel they haven't gone through what we've been through or somebody else has been through. At the end of the day, suffering is suffering no matter what it is. If somebody's in anguish, they're in anguish, whether we think it's for something petty or not. It might be very complicated, the wounds that they have in their life, and we should be sensitive and pray for that. And it can be a real journey to find freedom out of these wounds, and people are affected in so many different ways. So part of this path to having and securing true peace, and therefore tasting something of the joy of the Lord, we have to, as Catholics, we have to be on guard against false or counterfeit remedies, he said. And so I just want to quote you a quote that he quotes from 2 Corinthians chapter 11, 13 to 14. For such men are false apostles, deceitful workmen, disguising themselves as emissaries of Christ. And no wonder, for even Satan disguises himself as an angel of light. So, brothers and sisters, we're getting into this whole area already. We're getting kind of a taste of the idea of discernment. See, today, where we live in a world where it's so secular, there's a great apostasy. So many people have fallen away from their faith, their Christian faith. They've turned to other gods. Like in the readings we're doing today from the book of Exodus, we're seeing how quickly the people turn to build a golden calf in the desert. In a moment where God seems silent, or where Moses has gone away, the leader, their guide, has gone away up to the mountain to talk to God, they quickly turn back to what they know, which is what is so immediate, what we can just put our fingers on, which is material world. And so quickly we worship those things, and they take first rank in our life as opposed to the Lord. And so we quickly build idols again. And today, every human person longs for peace and fulfillment. And because of a huge vacuum of catechesis, and he points this out, there's a generation of Catholics there who we were not catechized or understand of the depth and the richness of our faith, and amazing treasures and gifts and mystical aids of the tradition from the lives of the saints, and real masters of spiritual life that are there in the church, taught by Christ himself, and also just the truths of the faith, understanding the meat and the content of our faith and how beautiful it is. Like that seemed to have not been communicated. And so what was communicated sometimes in time was like a hard religiosity, a hard surface, a kind of an abuse of power and authority sometimes, not everywhere, because this is not everybody's experience of the church. And the church has had different experiences in different countries, towns, villages. But yet this is a common experience for a lot of people because of maybe where Catholicism was influenced in the last, say, century and a bit. As the church has grown, as the Catholic Church has grown from those times of the apostles, she's like a boat on a stormy sea that she's taken, she's had to react to so many heresies and things throughout, that sometimes she's put more emphasis on certain parts of the spiritual life over others, etc., in response to these situations. But the point is, on this path for peace, he points out kind of a false way of prayer, kind of like the false and bad ways of mindfulness, in a sense that a kind of a prayer that leads just to the emptying of your mind and heart for like a vacuum, to just, which you could understand people want to just get rid of all the distractions and sit absolutely still. But the problem with that is that we create a void in your soul for other things to come in too. For Christians, you know, if we do mindfulness, it means that we are attentive to Christ in the present moment, and that we empty our mind of distractions. So we meet the person of Jesus Christ. And in that sense, I would say, you know, we could practice that kind of mindfulness, which is contemplation, which is attentiveness to the presence of God. And so, but we have to be on guard against these pseudo ways of peace, you know, that often the Eastern methods of you know, for example, yoga and other forms of prayer have replaced the depths of our Christian heritage and our Christian prayer. And in fact, they're counterfeit remedies for us Christians, because it doesn't lead us to the true source of all our peace, who is Jesus Christ.